Hey everyone! What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion deck user in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Transmigrated into One Piece and became a Marine will be going on hold soon, since we're nearly at the end of the story. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if a venerated soul reincarnated in Danmachi world? What if transmigrated and taking over Ichigo's body? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 451, XYZ Dragon Cannon. Dark Contract. Chaz drew his card. Data formed in his hand as he examined the field. On his side, XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon. Across from him, El Shaddol Construct and a facedown card. Construct's ability was lethal. Whenever it battled a special summoned monster, it destroyed it outright. On top of that, the Shaddol archetype embodied Hikaru's alchemy, his philosophy of fusion. A tricky opponent. Chaz frowned. If he didn't find a way to clear Construct now, its presence would suffocate him on Hikaru's turn. He drew in a breath, instinctively glancing toward Seto Kaiba. The man was calm, statuesque, as though carved in stone. Chaz shook his head sharply. No. A duel is only between duelists. Outside distractions mean nothing. He slapped down his card. Normal summon, Armed Dragon Thunder LV3. A small orange dragon in armor materialized, lightning sparking from its claws. Armed Dragon Thunder LV3, Level 3, Wind, Dragon, ATK 1200. I activate its effect. By sending one monster from my hand to the GY, this card is sent as well, and I can special summon an Armed Dragon monster of level 5 or lower from my deck. I send Ojama Black. But Hikaru flipped his set card immediately. I chain, Continuous Trap, Shaddol Schism. Chaz winced as his play was interrupted. Effect: during either main phase, banish the materials for a Shaddol fusion monster from my field or GY and fusion summon it. Hikaru declared. He raised his hand. I banish Shaddol Dragon and Shaddol Beast. Fusion summon, descend. El Shaddol Winda. Purple threads coalesced, weaving into the form of a beautiful sorceress cloaked in shadows. El Shaddol Winda Level 5, Dark, Spellcaster, ATK 2200/Def 800. Meanwhile, lightning surged as Chaz's dragon evolved despite the interruption. Armed Dragon Thunder LV5, Level 5, Wind, Dragon, ATK 2400. Purple puppet strings lashed onto his dual disc, and Chaz grimaced. You're ruthless, Hikaru. This too is part of a duel. Hikaru's smile was faint but sharp. While Winda is on the field, both players can only special summon once per turn. Now you're locked. Chaz scratched his head. He had expected this, but it still stung. No choice. Battle phase. XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon, Attack Winda, Extreme Cannon. The machine's barrels charged and unleashed lightning. Winda resisted briefly before shattering into fragments. Hikaru's LP, 4,000-3,200. Although injured, Hikaru didn't feel much pain. He steadied himself amid the lightning storm and surveyed the field. El Shaddol Construct's effect: when this card is sent to the graveyard, I can add one Shaddol spell or trap from my GY to my hand. I add Shaddol Fusion. Threads of light converged on his palm and reformed into a glowing fusion card. Excellent. Chaz struck first. Bastion murmured. But only once, Zane replied calmly. This is just the opening act. Jim Cook nodded. The tempo wasn't as explosive as Hikaru's battle with Zane, yet this duel was richer in nuance. Neither duelist could fully impose their will nor completely shut down the other's plays. A true duelist longs to feel the field bend to their control, and right now, neither could predict what would come next. That uncertainty made the crowd lean in all the more. Battle phase ends. Entering main phase 2. Chaz drew, then declared, "I activate Pot of Avarice. I return 5 monsters from my GY to the deck and draw 2. He sent Ojama Yellow, Green, Black, XYZ Dragon Cannon, and Armed Dragon Thunder LV3 spinning back into their decks. The Ojamas hooped as they flew home, and the massive XYZ unit disassembled back to its extra deck cradle. Chaz drew 2 cards, glanced, and smirked. Next, I activate the effect of XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon. I banish it from my field, reveal 1 Light Machine Fusion monster from my extra deck, and special summon up to 3 of its listed materials from my GY or banished zone." "What?" Bastion exclaimed. "He's sacrificing the stronger monster for the old one?" Zane's eyes widened. Gasps rippled through the stadium and even the global livestream. To most viewers, giving up a powerful, newer card for an older model looked like madness, or match fixing. But Hikaru understood. For Chaz, this move was right. I banish XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon, reveal XYZ Dragon Cannon, and special summon X-Head Cannon, Y Dragon Head, and Z Metal Tank. The 3 classic machines materialized one by one. X-Head Cannon, level 4/light/machine/ATK 1800/def 1500. Y Dragon Head, level 4/light/machine/ATK 1500/def 1600. Z Metal Tank, level 4/light/machine/ATK 1500/def 1300. Now, I banish all 3. Combine. The units locked together under magnetic force, a familiar roar shaking the ship. Even Kaiba himself allowed a rare smile. "Come forth, XYZ Dragon Cannon." The veteran war machine descended amid a surge of electricity. XYZ Dragon Cannon, level 8/light/machine/fusion/ATK 2800/def 2600. He actually abandoned the upgraded monster for the classic? Bastion gasped. Or maybe, Kaiba mused, he just wants to win with his oldest partner. Hikaru shook his head slightly. No, he's just making the choice that feels right. Chaz laughed. Ha! Exactly, Hikaru. That's what I've always respected about you. You're focused, precise, driven. I used to chase you, and Jaden too, thinking that beating you was the only way to earn true respect. But after teaming with you in the Fusion Army, fighting beside you in another dimension, and dueling at your side so many times, I realized something else. He looked upward, voice softening. My master showed me the truth I couldn't find alone. Just like you had Banner-sensei teach you alchemy. Hikaru smiled faintly. Banner's teachings had indeed saved him countless errors and wasted paths. Now I only wish to pursue the truest goal of every duelist, to become the most excellent duelist of all. And there's only one way to do that, win with wisdom and cards. He thrust a finger toward the machine before him. It's true that XYZ Dragon Cannon lacks the raw power and disruption of XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon, but it has something else entirely, cooperation. Hyper Dragon Cannon depends on it, VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon is built upon it, and perhaps the A to Z form we dream of in the future will rely on it as well. Right now, this is the card I need most. I activate the continuous trap card, XYZ Hyper Cannon, during my turn. Target 1 banished Union monster, return it to the bottom of the deck, then draw 1 card. I return Z Zillion Tank to my deck, then draw 1 card. He smiled as the new card materialized. Good. Raising his left hand, he pointed at Armed Dragon Thunder LV5. LV5's effect, send 1 monster from my hand to the GY, special summon 1 Armed Dragon monster of level 7 or lower from my deck. I send the Armed Dragon Thunder LV3 I just returned to the GY, evolve. Evolve toward the distant future. The armored dragon grew larger, thunder crackling along its frame. With a metallic roar, silver-white armor covered its body, its tail struck like a thunderclap as it descended. Armed Dragon Thunder LV7, level 7/win/dragon/ATK 2800/def 1000. LV3's effect. If this card is sent to the GY by the effect of a dragon monster, draw one card. He drew and his eyes lit up. Here it is, Hikaru, the third Ojama magic. The audience gasped. He's incredible, Bastion muttered. That's true deck compression, his deck's already razor thin. That guy's amazing. Jaden cheered from the broadcast. Most spectators didn't even grasp the depth of the play, but the duelists did. Sure, XYZ Dragon Cannon can't blow up cards during the opponent's turn like Hyper Dragon Cannon, but its effect has no once per turn restriction. So, Chaz raised the card aloft. I activate XYZ Dragon Cannon's effect. Discard Ojama magic to destroy your El Shaddol construct. The Ojama magic transformed into a glowing shell and loaded into the cannon's chamber. With a thunderous blast, the projectile struck construct square in the chest. The puppet angel shattered and crumbled to data. And of course, Ojama magic's effect. Add Ojama yellow, Ojama green, and Ojama black from my deck to my hand. Again, Big Brother. Oh dear, I knew Big Brother loves us. Woohoo, we're totally the MVPs this time, the Ojamas shouted as they danced around him. Ha! Isn't Dragon Cannon amazing? John scratched his head, puzzled. The spirit ruby popped out, planted a sharp kick to his forehead, and snapped, "Think, you dolt." John blinked, then laughed as realization dawned. Chaz, however, didn't bask in praise. He raised his dual disc. It's not over yet, Hikaru. I still have 3 more monsters in hand. He thrust his card forward. XYZ Dragon Cannon's effect. I discard Ojama yellow and Ojama green to destroy your field spell card in Shaddol Schism. The mechanical giant loaded its payload, barrels rotated, energy surged, then unleashed a twin barrage that wiped Hikaru Amaji's field clean in a blaze of light. This. Hikaru's field is gone, Bastion Misawa whispered, anxious. Not only that, Jim muttered, thanks to his continuous trap, Chaz can fire again during Hikaru's turn. Not only has the field reset, but Hikaru's life points are lower than before. Kaiba crossed his arms. So that's why he hesitated earlier. He explained coolly, he wasn't sure what Hikaru's set card was. If it hadn't been Shaddol Schism, he'd have dismantled XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon right away, resummoned XYZ Dragon Cannon, and gone for game in a single turn. But Schism restricted his summons, forcing him to adapt. Trade-offs and decisions. Bastion sighed. Instinct, that's my weakest stat. The dual disc hummed as orange-yellow current flickered through Chaz's hand. He clenched his fist. This isn't enough. The system flared, spinning up. Kaiba slid on his data glasses, eyes glinting. Chaz shouted, Armed Dragon Thunder LV7's effect. I send 1 monster from my hand to the GY, then send this card on the field to the GY, to special summon 1 Armed Dragon monster of level 10 or lower from my deck. Level 10, the spectators cried. It can evolve even further? Electric arcs danced around him, lightning poured from the steel dragon, engulfing the airship. Above the spirit world, a golden bolt crashed down from the heavens. I send a second Armed Dragon Thunder LV5 from my hand to the GY, evolve. A blinding roar shook the arena. The enormous dragon that emerged nearly filled the field, its body wreathed in stormlight. The thunder within it fused into radiant wings and a blazing tail hammer, gleaming with every movement. Armed Dragon Thunder LV10. Armed Dragon Thunder LV10, level 10/win/dragon/ATK 3000/def 2000. The duelists, the audience, even Kaiba himself could only stare as the electric titan unfurled its wings, the storm itself bowing to its roar. Chapter 452, Champion. The monster that symbolized Chaz Princeton, mirroring his every motion, stood tall on the field. Level 10. Bastion Misawa shielded his face from the gusts of wind and crackling thunder, forced back by the sheer force of dual energy that had materialized into reality. Even Zane had to take a step back. Under Chaz's roaring aura, the mighty Armed Dragon Thunder LV-10 had fully manifested. The effect of Armed Dragon Thunder LV-10. Chaz raised a hand dramatically. Since it was special summoned by the effect of an armed dragon monster, it gains the following effects. He extended one finger. 1. If this card's ATK reaches 1, its name becomes Armed Dragon LV-10. Then clenched his fist. 10. If its ATK reaches 10, its control cannot be changed. He swept his coat aside with a grin. 100. If its ATK reaches 100, it can't be destroyed by battle. He clasped his fists together, eyes gleaming. 1000. If its ATK reaches 1000, once per opponent's turn, I can send one card from my hand to the graveyard, target one card on the field, destroy it, and this monster gains 1000 ATK. And finally, he brushed a hand through his hair, smirking, 10,000. If this card's ATK reaches 10,000 or more, once per turn, destroy all other cards on the field. This is my brand new ace, my brand new soul. The pride of Chaz-sama. He burst into wild laughter, cape flaring. Armed Dragon Thunder LV-10 mirrored him perfectly, crossing its arms as lightning erupted from its chest like a storm-given form. The laughter echoed through the dual dome until it faded into an awkward silence. When his teammates stared back blankly, Chaz coughed twice and hurriedly continued. Ahem, right, moving on. The effect of Armed Dragon Thunder LV-5. If this card is sent to the GY by a dragon monster's effect, I can add one level 5 or higher armed dragon from my deck to my hand. I add my second Armed Dragon Thunder LV-7. That's a lot, Chaz. Where did you even get so many? Bastion asked, half in awe, half in disbelief. LV series monsters were notoriously rare. Owning a complete Armed Dragon Thunder set was impressive enough, but 2 sets? Chaz paused, then glanced at Armed Dragon LV-10. The dragon roared, and he laughed again. 3 cards, 6 cards, still not enough for 10,000. Everyone blinked, exchanging puzzled looks. I set 2 cards, Chaz declared. Your turn, Hikaru. 2 destruction effects every turn. Hikaru drew a card and exhaled slowly. Even compared to his duel with Zane, this was more difficult. 1 Shaddol Schism wasn't enough to hold him back. Now, the difference between 6 cards in hand and 2 possible destructions per turn was crushing. Still, what he drew wasn't bad. Then I'll normal summon, what was it again, right? He placed a card onto his duel disc. Keeper of the Dragon Magic. A masked warrior, resembling Hikaru himself in both uniform and bearing, materialized on the field. Keeper of the Dragon Magic, level 4/dark/dragon/ATK 1800. Chaz frowned deeply. The difference between destruction and negation was glaring here. If he were using Light and Darkness Dragon right now, he'd have instantly negated and destroyed the monster's effect. By sending Fusion Replacement from my hand to the GY, I activate Keeper of the Dragon Magic's effect, add 1 normal spell card with Fusion in its name from my deck to my hand. Fusion deployment can't be used right now, and he already used Fusion Substitute, Chaz muttered, easing slightly. So that should mean. He froze, eyes widening. Chaz, Hikaru said calmly, the possibilities of fusion are endless. With a wave of his hand, hundreds of holographic data cards, his deck spell lineup, materialized in the air like a glowing wall. He flicked his fingers through the digital list, scrolling rapidly until he stopped at 1 card. The card I choose is the normal spell, Easy Fusion. At his touch, the projection condensed into a solid card before him. He took Easy Fusion and added it to his hand, but he didn't activate it yet. Instead, he smiled. Now, I activate Keeper of the Dragon Magic's second effect. Ha! A murmur went through the spectators. Second effect. Chaz frowned. That card had been personally designed by Pegasus and gifted to Hikaru. No one knew its full text. They only knew it could search fusion spells. He'd shown that before in his duel against Kaiser. And now, you can activate this effect by revealing 1 fusion monster from your extra deck to your opponent, Hikaru explained. Then special summon one fusion material monster listed on that fusion monster from your graveyard, in face-down defense position. He opened his extra deck. One card slid out and glowed across the field. It's him again. Ha, he's showing it again. As expected. Chaz exhaled sharply. He knew his protection had failed yet again. Reveal Chimeratech Fortress Dragon. Special summon a monster in face-down defense position. A student from the fusion department immediately jumped up in excitement. Ah! I get it. I know this one. Fusion summons can even use face-down monsters as materials, unlike Synchro or XYZ. Exactly, another chimed in. That means even a face-down Cyber Dragon can become Chimeratech Fortress Dragon. Everyone in the hall nodded in unison. This was something their department head, Hikaru Amaji, had emphasized repeatedly. Naturally, Chaz knew this rule even better. I activate Armed Dragon Thunder LV10's effect. By sending Armed Dragon Thunder LV7 from my hand to the graveyard, I destroy your Cyber Dragon. Thunder flared its wings, lightning gathering in its claws before it hurled a massive bolt downward. The face-down monster shattered under the strike. The effect of Armed Dragon Thunder LV7. When sent to the graveyard by a dragon monster's effect, I can add Pile Armed Dragon from my deck to my hand. An LV10 gains 1000 ATK. Armed Dragon Thunder LV10, ATK, 3000 4000. Then I pay 1000 life points to activate Easy Fusion. I fusion summon 1000 Eyes Restrict. Hikaru Amaji LP, 3200 2200. 1000 Eyes Restrict, level 1/dark/spellcaster/ATK 0. Next, I activate my continuous trap card, XYZ Extreme Cannon. By discarding Pile Armed Dragon and one Ojama monster, I destroy your 1000 Eyes Restrict and Keeper of Dragon Magic. The cannon roared to life once more. Both monsters shattered in a burst of blue energy. Amazing. Misawa murmured. If that were me, being destroyed twice last turn and twice again this turn, I wouldn't be able to recover. But Hikaru's still standing, and expanding his field. Zane nodded slightly. He's fighting uphill, but he's adapting. Hikaru extended a hand over his dual disc. The effective fusion substitute in my graveyard, banish it, then draw one card after returning El Shaddol Construct to my extra deck. The disc shuffled briefly, then produced a new card. Next, I activate the spell Shaddol Fusion. Since you control XYZ Dragon Cannon, I can use materials directly from my deck. He selected two cards. I send Shaddol Falco and Mirage Swordsman to the graveyard to fusion summon El Shaddol Grista. A humanoid construct formed from blazing red threads, its gem core pulsing with molten light. El Shaddol Grista, level 7/fire/rock/ATK 2450. The effect of Shaddol Falco. When sent to the graveyard by a card effect, I can special summon it face down in defense position. A small falcon spirit, cloaked in purple, landed face down beside Construct. Wait, Jesse frowned. He recovered Construct, but why didn't he summon Nephilim instead? She's stronger. Stat-wise, yes, Bastion agreed, but Flame Swordsman has a built-in effect. During damage calculation, both battling monsters are destroyed, and if a fire fusion monster is destroyed, he can special summon himself back from the graveyard. It's defense layered as offense. Ah, so it's a setup. Zane smiled knowingly. Not defense, preparation. He plans to let Construct fall in battle, trigger Flame Swordsman's revival, and then use Shaddol Schism next turn to bring back El Shaddol Winda. That'll lock Chaz out of special summons. Everyone's eyes widened. Oh. It all clicked at once. Rather than cling to a single Nephilim vulnerable to destruction, Hikaru was building a loop of recovery, control, and recursion. Then, Hikaru raised a card dramatically. I activate the spell card Spiral Fusion. Spiral Fusion? Wait, isn't that from the Gaia archetype? Exactly, Hikaru confirmed. This card fusion summons a dragon fusion monster using monsters from my hand or field. He selected his next materials. I fuse Gaia the Magical Knight, whose name is treated as Dark Knight Gaia, and Curse of Dragon, the Cursed Dragon. The two cards spun together, forming a roaring cyclone of magic energy. Fusion Summon. Descend, Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons. A crimson knight astride a sleek, emerald-scaled dragon descended in a spiral of wind and light, blade poised toward the sky. Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons, level 7/wind/dragon/ATK 2600. Ah! That's one of the Duel King's legendary ace monsters. It's Gaia. I haven't seen that card in ages. The audience erupted into excited chatter. Even Kaiba's normally calm expression faltered as the spirit materialized before him. That monster. Could it really be? Hikaru raised his dual disc high. The effect of spiral fusion. If Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons was fusion summoned by this card, it gains 2600 ATK and can attack monsters twice during each battle phase. And while it's in the monster zone, it's treated as Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons. What? It gains 2600 ATK and can attack twice. Wind howled across the airship as the knight's power surged, its dragon steed roared, scales gleaming brighter and brighter. Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons, ATK 2600 5200. 5200 in 2 attacks. If both land, Chaz loses. Chaz smirked. As expected, that card was meant to bring out Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons. Hikaru glanced at Chaz's set cards, then looked up at his partner monster. Gaia, it's all on you. Leave it to me, my lord. I will complete the mission. Battle. Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons, attack XYZ Dragon Cannon. Spiral Spear Strike. The knight's body spun like a drill of wind and lightning, slamming straight through the mechanical titan. XYZ Dragon Cannon exploded into shards of blue light. Chess Princeton LP, 4000-1600. Good, no mirror force or defensive trap this time. Misawa pumped his fist. So summoning El Shaddai Grista wasn't for defense after all. Chaz LP is 1600, Gaia can't end it now, but Grista can still attack. Hikaru's got this. Second attack. Hikaru commanded. Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons, strike Armed Dragon Thunder LV10. The two wind dragons met each other's gaze, the calm storm of Gaia versus the raging tempest of thunder. Not so fast, Hikaru. Chaz's voice boomed through the airship. Armed Dragon is my dignity, my symbol. You won't surpass it so easily. Open trap card, Armed Dragon Thunderbolt. Lightning tore through the sky, shaking the entire vessel. I target my Armed Dragon Thunder LV10. It gains 1000 ATK for each Armed Dragon monster in my graveyard with a level less than or equal to it. He raised his dual disc, electricity arcing between the plates. In my graveyard are Armed Dragon Thunder LV7, LV5, LV3, and Pile Armed Dragon. That's 4 monsters, so its ATK rises by 4000. 4000. Ah! Come on, Armed Dragon Thunder LV10, aggregate the thunder. Lightning exploded from its wings. The airship lurched violently as the electric glow around the dragon's claws grew brighter and brighter. Armed Dragon Thunder LV10 ATK 4000 8000. 8000. Could it really reach 10,000? Gasps rippled through the crowd. This power rivals Cyber End Dragon with Power Bond, Zane murmured, gazing up at the raging thunder dragon. 8000 minus 5200, that's 2800 damage. Hikaru's the one losing this exchange. Bastion exclaimed. No. Hikaru shook his head calmly. Armed Dragon Thunderbolt's effect states that any battle damage your opponent takes this turn becomes 0. Oh. Realization dawned across the stands. Chaz, is this your battle for dignity? Chaz grinned fiercely. Ha! I told you, I'm going to become the strongest. But even as lightning danced across his dual disc, the numbers stopped at 8000. Not 10,000, not yet. Then let's finish this, Gaia. Bring it, Armed Dragon. Both dragons roared, wind and lightning colliding as their masters shouted in unison. The two titans met above the airship, one wreathed in storm, the other in crackling flame. Their impact shook the skies. Technicians clung to railings, alarms blared, yet no one fled. To witness a clash like this, no duelist could turn away. A blinding flash. Gaia, the magical knight of dragons, burst apart, scattering like a meteor across the clouds. Even 5200 ATK wasn't enough to fell it. Even Misawa's mathematical theory suddenly felt vindicated. The audience could feel the 2,800-point difference in their bones. Then, El Shaddol Grista, attack armed dragon thunder LV-10. It's useless. Chaz shouted. Counterattack, armed dragon, shatter it. The thunder dragon lashed out with a backhand strike, obliterating the crimson puppet. Now I activate the effect of Mirage Swordsman in my graveyard. When a fire fusion monster is destroyed by battle or effect, I can special summon this card. Black flame erupted into blue-white brilliance as the warrior reformed from molten light. Mirage Swordsman, level 8/fire/warrior/ATK 2800. And with Grista's effect, I recover Shaddol Schism from my graveyard. Battle continues. Hikaru called. Mirage Swordsman, attack armed dragon thunder LV-10, phantom battle auraflame/sword. The fiery swordsman blurred around his colossal opponent, leaving after images in every direction. Armed dragon swung wildly, but the real strike came from below. The opening Gaia's assault had left behind. Effect of Mirage Swordsman. At the start of the damage step, destroy both battling monsters. The warrior's blade carved upward into the dragon's jaw as a surge of lightning exploded outward. Both duelists shielded their eyes as the sky itself darkened from the blast. Then I activate my trap card. Chaz's voice rang through the smoke. Hikaru frowned. A trap? Now. Thieves' tools. Chaz declared. On the hologram, two phantom thieves crossed paths, each snatching from the other. When cards on both our fields are destroyed simultaneously by battle or card effect, both players draw two cards. Ha, drawing again? Hikaru smirked. Well, you've already burned through every Ojama magic you've got. He drew his own next card and smiled faintly. Vampire Fräulein, nice pull. I set one card, he finished, the dual disc locking the hologram in place. End turn. Chaz wiped the sweat from his forehead. The floor beneath him felt like it was trembling. Maybe it was the ship shaking, or maybe it was his own heartbeat pounding in his chest. A bargain with the dead, huh? He glanced at his hand. Chaz was a duelist who packed his deck with plenty of dark contract-style support cards, because unlike Jaden, he couldn't rely on pure instinct. I activate the spell card, Try White. Target 3 level 2 or lower normal monsters in my graveyard and special summon them. Then I chain to that activation, Continuous Trap, Shaddol Schism. I banish El Shaddol Construct and El Shaddol Winda from my graveyard to fusion summon. Come forth, El Shaddol Winda. Purple puppet strings erupted once again, binding Chaz's dual disc, but he didn't flinch as they wrapped around his arm. From his graveyard, 3 small, strange-looking spirits emerged. Even with their attack points of 0, their goofy faces were full of courage. They lined up before Chaz like a proud little army. Ojama Yellow. Level 2/light/beast warrior/ATK 0. Ojama Green. Level 2/light/beast warrior/ATK 0. Ojama Black. Level 2/light/beast warrior/ATK 0. Next, I activate the spell card, Unexpected Draw. I send one face-up non-effect monster I control to the graveyard and draw 2 cards. He pointed to Ojama Yellow. Go, little brother. Don't worry, big brothers. The Ojamas saluted bravely as Yellow dissolved into light. Draw, and contract. He looked at what he'd drawn, and froze. It was that card. The spirit that had been with him since his childhood, the card that led him to victory in his first local tournament. The same card he buried beneath Duel Academy's soil after losing to Jaden. When he returned to the academy, he dug it up again, apologized, and placed it back in his deck. He'd grown since then, with his friends by his side, and now, he had drawn it once more. That's right. How could I fight without you? A grin spread across Chaz's face. Both duelists were running out of steam, but this was the perfect time. First, I activate the quick play spell Twister. Destroy your Shad Doll schism. A sudden gust of wind blew through, shattering the trap. Then, I tribute 2 monsters on my field. Goodbye. Last one standing. Advance summon. The darkened sky split down the middle, one half shining with blinding light, the other cloaked in darkness. Light and Darkness Dragon. With a roar, the half-white, half-black dragon spread its radiant and shadowed wings and descended upon the field. Light and Darkness Dragon, level 8/light/dragon/ATK 2800/def 2400. It's Light and Darkness Dragon? Kaiser exclaimed. He actually drew his ultimate ace at the final moment. This is bad, someone murmured. Hikaru deck is full of fusion cards, he won't be able to use any effects now. Battle. Attack El Shad Doll Winda. The dragon's wings unfurled and it soared forward. Hikaru raised a card. Wait. I activate the monster effect of Vampire Fräulein. It's useless. Light and Darkness Dragon's effect. As long as this card is face up on the field, all monster effects, spell, and trap activations are negated. Light flared, cutting through the effect before it could resolve. Each time this effect negates a card, Light and Darkness Dragon's ATK and def drop by 500. ATK 2800-2300. Boom. El Shad Doll Winda shattered. Hikaru LP, 2200-2100. Even weakened, its attack is still higher than Winda's. This is bad. Someone muttered. Hikaru, however, stayed calm and pointed to his graveyard. Winda's effect. Light and Darkness Dragon's effect. Radiant light burst forth again, interrupting him mid-sentence. ATK 2300-1800/def 1900-1400. It can still negate twice more. Hikaru barely has any cards left, but even if he draws fusion cards now, they won't help him. Several people discussed quietly. Even if Light and Darkness Dragon's ATK drops to its lowest, when it's destroyed by battle it can still revive a monster from the graveyard. If Hikaru completely drains its power, it'll just bring back Armed Dragon Thunder anyway. Everyone's expressions were grim. They all knew Hikaru Amaji's strengths and his limits. Turn end. Hikaru looked at his hand, then raised his eyes to Chaz Princeton. It seems this will be the last turn. So confident, Hikaru? Chaz smirked. Light and Darkness Dragon is a card you play only when you're desperate, Hikaru said calmly, his tone almost reflective. Because its effect is mandatory, it negates everything, even your own spells and traps. Once you summon it, you can't do anything else. It was true. But in return, its control over effects was absolute. Then, my turn, draw. He snapped a card from his deck. Normal summon, Synchro Fusionist. A monster appeared that looked like a cross between a Synchro and a Fusion Sigil. Synchro Fusionist, level 2/dark/spellcaster/ATK 800. Synchro Fusionist? Is he going to Synchro Summon? Someone whispered. But with only a level 2, he can't, unless he's planning to use Shad Doll Falcon. Flip Summon, Shad Doll Falcon. Activate its effect. When flip summoned, I can special summon one Shad Doll monster from my graveyard. A faint light began to shine. But the moment it appeared, Light and Darkness Dragon's glow surged, breaking the puppet strings binding Falcon. Light and Darkness Dragon, ATK 1800-1300/def 1400-900. One more negation, and it'll be down to the bare minimum. But even then, it's useless, right? Once it's destroyed, it'll just revive Armed Dragon. What then? Exactly. What then? Hikaru touched the spell card in his hand, a small smile crossing his face. Chaz, you really are an excellent duelist. But it seems this time, I'm stronger. Fusion spell card. What? He's still going to use fusion. But Light and Darkness Dragon will just negate it. Maybe he's desperate? Even the spectators were confused. I pay 2,000 life points. Activate the spell, Super Polymerization. What? Super Polymerization. Yuri, watching from another dimension, almost jumped out of his seat. Wait, why's it costing life points? Super Polymerization, of course. Kaiba muttered, eyes widening. That card's activation can't be negated or responded to. The audience gasped. It's unchainable. Exactly. Hikaru's voice echoed confidently. I send 2 fusion materials from my field to the graveyard, and fusion summon 1 fusion monster. Hikaru LP, 2100. Fusion materials, 2 dark monsters on my field. Great wings that pursue ultimate fusion, embrace all that exists. The 2 monsters transformed into streaks of violet light, merging into the dual disc. Purple energy erupted behind Hikaru, filling the air. Fusion summon. Descend, level 8, Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. The beautiful, predatory dragon unfurled its amethyst wings, descending elegantly behind Hikaru. Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, level 8/dark/dragon/ATK 2800. Chaz's eyes widened. Hikaru, you. Your Light and Darkness Dragon was normal summoned, so Starving Venom can't absorb its ATK, Hikaru explained. But it can copy its effect. He smirked. Which you'll immediately negate. And that's exactly what I want. Light and Darkness Dragon, ATK 1300/800/def 900/400. Even with its energy nearly gone, the dragon had done its job, shutting down every defense Chaz could muster. It's over, Chaz. Chaz clenched his fists, then burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha. I'm sorry, Light and Darkness Dragon, this will be your first loss. Then face it head on. Hikaru roared. Starving Venom Fusion Dragon's wings glowed a deep violet, unleashing a barrage of energy projectiles. Light and Darkness Dragon struggled, but the outcome was decided. The blast consumed the dragon, and Chaz's life points dropped to 0. Chaz Princeton LP, 1600. The duel was over. Winner, Hikaru Amaji. Chapter 453, The Eye of Timaeus. A dense cloud of steam rose from around the spaceship. The accompanying dual spirits scattered, and as the duel ended, the holographic projections faded one by one. But then, everyone noticed something strange. The scorch marks from the lightning, the impact craters from the explosions, the torn fragments of the arena floor. They were all still there. That destruction hadn't been virtual, it was real. Chaz gasped for breath. His body felt completely drained, as if every ounce of energy had been ripped away by the duel itself. Even standing was a struggle. Clatter! Footsteps echoed through the deck. Then came a sharp command. Stand up. Chaz gritted his teeth, forcing his trembling body upright. Master. It was Sito Kaiba. The president of Kaiba Corp. The host of this tournament. And Chaz's mentor. Kaiba said nothing at first. His cold blue eyes flicked briefly toward Chaz, then moved past him, fixing on Amaji Hikaru. Hikaru was also clearly exhausted. The sheer power of the card he had used had pushed him to his limit. That card was the embodiment of Yuri's fusion-devouring power in the original work. Even though it was technically the OCG version of super polymerization, it clearly carried an otherworldly resonance, something not just powerful, but dangerous. Of course, it also came with a heavy cost. Paying 2,000 life points had nearly drained Hikaru's strength completely. This new generation of dual discs really did simulate the sensations of a real battle. Kaiba examined Hikaru's dual disc closely. The bright blue circuitry that had glowed during the duel was now tinged with streaks of violet, residual energy from Hikaru's fusion. Kaiba gave a subtle nod of approval, the kind of acknowledgement that meant more than words. Then, he turned away, gathering his Kaiba Corp staff and ordering them to escort the duelists and spectators back to the arena. By the time everyone returned to the venue, Hikaru had recovered most of his composure, though his dual disc still flickered faintly with energy. Chaz could now stand on his own, though his legs still felt like lead. The spaceship slowly descended, and the duelists stepped off one by one. Even someone as quiet as Bastion received applause from the crowd, but when Zane and Chaz appeared, the cheers exploded like a tidal wave. "It's a pity," Chaz smiled, glancing toward Zane. "I didn't get to duel you this time, Zane." Zane smirked back. "Ha! You're aiming to go pro, right? Then there'll be plenty of chances." Though both had lost to Hikaru, neither man felt any shame. If anything, there was an unspoken respect between them, because both knew that their own limits had been tested by the same opponent. But the loudest cheers, without question, belonged to the champion. Hikaru Amagi. He walked down the ramp beneath a storm of light and applause. The air itself vibrated with excitement. Even Serena's voice, bright and proud, was drowned out by the roar of the crowd. They shouted his name. They chanted fusion, again and again, as if it were a sacred word. Hikaru smiled and waved to them, a rare moment of warmth crossing his usually calm expression. After a while, the award ceremony began immediately. Kaiba Corp had never been one for unnecessary delays. There would be no waiting until the next day, no official gala. Everything would happen here and now. First came the closing report. Kaiba Corp summarized the performances of all Duel Academy students this semester, especially in the Grand Tournament, and even singled out a few students who had failed to collect 4 seals. The president says, the announcer read from Kaiba's direct statement, that if this trend continues, those students might as well graduate early and do whatever they want elsewhere. A few nervous laughs rippled through the audience. Then came Kaiba Corp's commendations. The company formally praised those who had gone beyond expectations, students who not only excelled in their duels but had also acted with courage and honor during the incursion incident. That list included Hikaru Amagi, Jaden Yuki, and a handful of others: Zane and Cyrus Truesdale, Dino Kenzan, Jim Crocodile Cook, Axel Brody, and more. Duelists who had risked their lives and cards to protect others. Kaiba Corp declared that all of these participants would receive bonus credits toward their final evaluations, and the top performers would later be awarded exclusive Kaiba Corp developed cards and technology. Finally, it was time for the main event, the championship presentation. A card said to rival the 3 Egyptian gods. What kind of card could that be? I bet it's Chaos Magician. No way, that's strong, but not quite on the level of the gods. Speculation filled the air. Hikaru stepped forward to accept the trophy. The lights converged on him as he turned toward the audience. He spoke calmly, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. Thank you to my classmates, to Professor Growler, to Kaiba Corp, and to everyone who supported me. This victory isn't mine alone, it's ours. Then he stepped up to the podium, and faced Sito Kaiba directly. Slash. Oomph, not bad. Kaiba's sharp gaze swept over Hikaru from head to toe, assessing him with the precision of a man who saw duelists as both assets and weapons. Kaiba had been observing Hikaru closely throughout the entire tournament. After all, Hikaru wasn't just a competitor, he was a candidate for Kaiba's next grand event, the Kaiba Corp KC Cup, Duel Across Dimensions. For this championship, Kaiba had prepared 2 prizes. One represented himself, and the other. If Chaz had won, Kaiba would have given his own card to him, but fate had chosen differently. Still, Kaiba wasn't disappointed. He was genuinely impressed by Chaz's growth, the way he had dismantled XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon to revive XYZ Dragon Cannon, and the climactic summoning of Light and Darkness Dragon. However, only one duelist stood at the summit today. And that duelist was Hikaru Amagi. This card, Kaiba began, his deep voice resonating across the arena, is a legendary dragon, reconstructed by Yugi Muto himself, based on his experiences across dimensions, recreated through Kaiba Corp's most advanced dual energy simulation technology. At the mention of Yugi, the crowd collectively gasped. Yugi Muto. The king of games. The one duelist even Seto Kaiba acknowledged as his rival, and now, this was a card born from Yugi's power itself. Behold, Kaiba raised his hand, his coat fluttering as the platform before him split open with a hiss of air pressure, the legendary dragon that rivals the Egyptian gods. A powerful gust swept through the arena, making spotlights flicker as a blue eye emerged from the light. Then came scales, armor, and the unmistakable shape of a dragon's jaw. A golden nameplate glimmered under the lights. Spell card, the Eye of Timaeus. Hikaru's breath caught. For a heartbeat, he couldn't even move. The Eye of Timaeus, he whispered. A legendary dragon, he exclaimed aloud. The audience erupted in astonishment. The legendary dragons of Yugi's era. Then that means, this card's power really is on par with the Egyptian gods. Hikaru stared in disbelief. He had spent months painstakingly crafting the Claw of Hermos, and even then, his version was incomplete. Yet here, Kaiba had just revealed Timaeus as though it were destiny itself. But when he thought about it, it made sense. This wasn't a mere tournament card, it was the culmination of 6 months of GX's fiercest competition, dual energy research, and Kaiba Corp's finest engineering. Kaiba's voice carried again, deep and absolute. This version of the card was recreated by Yugi, simulated through Kaiba Corp's fusion energy network. It's not as powerful as the original, but it still contains formidable strength, the very essence of fusion. He paused, eyes narrowing slightly. The only limitation is that its transformations are restricted to dark magician-related cards. Then Kaiba took a step forward, his coat sweeping behind him like a cape. So, he said, his gaze piercing Hikaru's, do you have the courage to bear the power of this legendary dragon? Hikaru's answer came without hesitation. Of course. He reached forward. At once, a sharp resistance surged through his arm, an invisible force pressing against his hand. Hikaru's breath hitched. Pain pulsed through his body as if the dragon itself was testing his worth. For a moment, it seemed as though Timaeus was rejecting him. Then, a faint red light flared at Hikaru's waist. The spare dual disc card he carried began to glow. Instantly, the resistance vanished. The pressure, the pain, all dissolved. The path to Timaeus opened, and Hikaru's hand finally closed around the card. Kaiba's eyes narrowed. That shouldn't have been possible. Was it resonance? Could it be that the Eye of Timaeus had recognized a familiar power within Hikaru? That shouldn't be possible. The legendary dragons acknowledged only their own kind. And yet, Hikaru Amaji now held the card, effortlessly. Kaiba's lips curled into a rare, faint smile. Interesting. Hikaru raised the card high above his head. Blue light cascaded from the spell's surface, reflecting off the audience's eyes. Cheers erupted once again as the champion stood there, holding a legend reborn. And with that, the ceremony concluded. As the lights dimmed and the applause faded, Hikaru turned to leave the stage. He finally exhaled, ready to rest after this long, grueling battle. But before he could take a step, a low voice called from behind him. You want blue eyes, don't you? Slash. That's right, Hikaru answered without a moment's hesitation. Kaiba's expression sharpened into something between amusement and approval. What great courage, he said, the corners of his mouth tugging upward. You're the first person in many years who's dared to make such a request. Hikaru blinked, realizing the weight of what he'd just said. He cleared his throat and replied more carefully, that's truly an honor. Ha 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 ha. Kaiba's low, resonant laugh rolled through the emptying arena. That's right. It is your honor. The echo of his laughter faded, replaced by his usual cold authority. Still, he went on, you've earned it. This championship victory of yours was no fluke. It was well deserved. Kaiba's eyes flicked sideways. Ches Princeton, standing a short distance away, met that gaze for only half a second before instinctively lowering his head. The pressure from Kaiba's stare was more terrifying than any monster effect. Then Kaiba turned back to Hikaru. Once everything is concluded, he said, come to Kaibacorp headquarters. You'll receive the opportunity you're asking for. A pause. His voice dropped, colder and more deliberate. But it won't be that simple. He took one step forward, his coat sweeping dramatically behind him. If you want to claim a Blue Eyes, you'll have to earn it. Without my personal approval, you won't be able to take so much as a single scale of that dragon from my vault. My approval? Hikaru repeated, blinking in confusion. What? Hikaru muttered under his breath, brow furrowing, you've developed another personality now? Chapter 454, The Hall of Light. The 6-month-long GX tournament had finally come to an end, yet for Hikaru, it felt more exhausting than the entire previous year combined. Under Kaiba Corporation's guidance, the students returned to their respective academies, where each school conducted its own final evaluations and reflections. Some students were praised, others criticized. It was, in every sense, a time of endings and new beginnings. It's worth mentioning that, up until the very last day, Jaden still hadn't figured out what to do with the remaining Dark World monsters. In the end, he simply decided to take all of them with him. Yes, every single one of the Dark World spirits and cards, except for the still missing Dark World War God. He didn't mind the trouble. As for the Lightsworn spirits, Jaden had observed them for several months and found nothing unusual. So long as they didn't become Twilightsworn, they remained calm and pure. Even then, 2 Lightsworn spirits decided to follow him to this dimension. But that was nothing unusual. Countless Lightsworn spirits had crossed over to the human world, drawn by the students' courage and ideals. Perhaps this was also how the students themselves continued to grow stronger, through bonds and encounters forged in this tournament. Among all the schools, Duel Academy's main campus had the most complex atmosphere, filled with both joy and sorrow. It was the happiest, liveliest, and yet somehow the saddest place of all. Normally, such a contradiction would be strange. But for the main campus, it made perfect sense. Thanks to Hikaru and his team's brilliant performance, the Academy's reputation had been completely restored. The doubts and rumors that once surrounded the school had finally disappeared. And because the Fusion Army incident had brought so much outside suspicion and pressure, the relief afterward felt overwhelming. For the first time in months, the students could breathe freely again. Even Professor Kronos, while reading out final grades, occasionally had to wipe away tears with a handkerchief. It was proof of just how much tension everyone had been under. Hikaru spent a peaceful few days at the academy. Their farewell gathering was full of laughter, tears, and snacks, one of those rare moments that truly felt like the end of an era. Jaden, of course, was still the same as always, running around without a plan. Atticus decided that, in addition to his internship, he wanted to learn some entertainment dueling, and he even planned to drag Alexis along with him. Chaz, despite finishing second, had built a tremendous reputation for himself. With his own company growing steadily, he was already preparing to compete with his 2 older brothers over the summer. Misawa had finally received official approval to visit the X dimension, and he was so excited he couldn't sleep all night. Apparently, this interdimensional exchange was part of a formal initiative launched by Kaiba Corporation itself, which made Misawa's timing perfect. Even Serena had begun experimenting with alchemy in the laboratory on the 2nd floor of the fusion department. Since she had nothing planned for the summer, spending her break on alchemy research didn't seem like a bad idea. To be safe, Hikaru left her a few cards, spirits he had chosen personally from among those they had rescued. These spirits were more than happy to protect Serena, especially knowing she had been a target of the Fusion Army, and they got along with her wonderfully. Though most students had already gone home for the summer, Duel Academy's island remained unusually busy. Every day, new companies and clubs arrived by ship or plane to discuss business with Professor Kronos. The students' outstanding performance in the GX tournament had brought the Academy an unprecedented level of fame. Almost every hour, someone wanted to form a partnership or simply visit the campus. To Professor Kronos, all this attention was a blessing. He handled every meeting with pride and enthusiasm, practically dancing his way to the principal's office each morning. As for Hikaru, after the celebration ended, he finally contacted Funlo Company with a single purpose in mind. He was going to Kaiba Corporation. Somehow, Chaz had caught wind of what was happening. When Hikaru arrived at the Academy's airfield, Chaz was already there, leaning casually against a helicopter and pointing his thumb at it with a grin. It was a private aircraft, equipped with Kaiba Corp's identity verification system, flying directly to Kaiba Corporation headquarters. Of course. He'd forgotten that this guy still had those kinds of privileges. And if you have privileges, it'd be a waste not to use them. Chaz wasn't just there to give Hikaru a lift, though. He also had business to discuss with Makuba Kaiba, some corporate matter that Hikaru neither understood nor cared to ask about. Still, just as Hikaru was about to board the helicopter, Chaz called out to him. Hikaru. Hikaru turned around. The next instant, a card whistled through the air toward him. Instinctively, Hikaru reached out and caught it. Oh? He blinked in surprise. Be a Buster Drake? Hikaru looked up at Chaz. Chaz, I was only joking before. That's your partner's card, I couldn't possibly accept it. It was true. He had teased Chaz about it earlier, saying that whoever lost should give their ABC series partner card to the other. But that had been nothing more than a joke, something duelists said in the heat of the moment. Those cards weren't ordinary by any means, each one held the spirit of its own monster. You're mistaken. Chaz smirked, hands in his pockets. That's a copy I asked Makuba to make for you. There's no way I'd hand over my partner for real, but a bet's a bet. Hikaru stared at the card, then chuckled softly. Ha, then I won't be polite. Good luck, Chaz said simply. He knew what Hikaru was going to do, and there was no way he could lend him strength for it, so cheering him on was the only thing he could do. After all, he knew Hikaru would be spending his summer in another dimension. He was only here to see him off, and to settle a few side matters with Makuba while he was at it. Following the Kaiba Corp staff, Hikaru made his way deep inside Kaiba Corporation headquarters. They passed through the towering gates of the dimensional door, descending further and further underground. At a certain point, the escorts stopped. Someone else will guide you the rest of the way, one of them said respectfully. We're not authorized to go beyond this point. Hikaru stepped out of the elevator as they bowed and departed. The moment he turned back, the elevator door behind him shimmered, and then vanished completely. Oh, Hikaru murmured. So that elevator was part of the dimensional gate's transfer field. With his experience traveling between dimensions, he understood immediately. He looked down the pitch-dark corridor ahead and began walking forward without hesitation. At first, there was only darkness. Then, thwoom! Blue torches flickered to life one by one on either side, casting rippling light on the walls as he went. The deeper he went, the brighter it became, until finally the path opened up. Before him stood a massive, star-white mausoleum, towering statues of dragons encircled it, each sculpted with lifelike precision. At its center rose a huge white altar, cylindrical and gleaming under the cold torchlight. Above the altar, a spectral dragon's silhouette shimmered, pure white, its eyes burning with a brilliant blue radiance. The Shrine of Light. Hikaru whispered. Of course. It could only be. Who's there? Just as Hikaru was taking in the sight of the shrine, a familiar voice broke through his thoughts. He turned sharply. Standing at the edge of the light was a tall figure clad in white, wearing a dragon-shaped mask that gleamed faintly under the torches. Kaiba, he murmured. But almost immediately, he sensed something was wrong. The aura wasn't the same as Sito Kaiba's. The posture, the rhythm of the voice, it was close, but not him. No, this was someone else. Although the outfit resembled Kaiba Man, there was something distinctly artificial about this version, like a reflection of Kaiba's will, rather than the man himself. Hikaru narrowed his eyes, quickly judging the situation. I am a duelist who travels across dimensions, he said calmly. I seek the fusions that exist within each world. I've come here to obtain the fusion of Blue Eyes and to earn your approval. For a brief moment, silence filled the hall. Then, the masked man chuckled. Oh ho! You dare say such things in front of me? Seems like you've lost your mind. The figure tilted his head slightly, and though the mask hid his expression, Hikaru could feel the mocking grin behind it. Fine then, the man said at last. I'll help you clear your head. He raised his right arm. A familiar, old-style dual disc clicked open on his wrist, one that looked straight out of Duelist Kingdom. The hum of its activation filled the shrine, faintly echoing off the marble walls. Hikaru didn't hesitate. He lifted his own arm, and his modern dual disc responded instantly, unfolding with a soft metallic hiss as blue light raced across its circuits. Their eyes met. Duel! The two duelists shouted in unison, and the air around the shrine pulsed with energy. Kaiba Man, LP, 4000. Hikaru, LP, 4000. Chapter 455, The Fate of Confrontation. Humph. Draw. The masked Kaiba Man drew a card. Torches across the shrine flared to life. In the gleam, Hikaru felt countless unseen blue eyes watching him. You come here spouting arrogance. Prove you have the strength to back it up. Normal spell card, cards of consonance. I discard the white stone of legend and draw two. He sent both to the graveyard and drew. The white stone of legend activates. When sent to the graveyard, add Blue Eyes White Dragon from the deck to the hand. Without even checking, he pulled the top card. It was Blue Eyes White Dragon. Normal summon, Kaibaman. Level 3/light/warrior/ATK 200/def 700. Kaibaman's effect. I tribute it to special summon Blue Eyes White Dragon from my hand. Behold the light you long to touch but can never reach. Descend, my servant. Blue Eyes White Dragon. Blue Eyes White Dragon level 8/light/dragon/ATK 3000. I set one card. End my turn. Tiara frowned. That's it? One Blue Eyes and a set? Kaiba Man smiled. What's wrong? Aren't you taking your turn? Or did the dragon scare you silent? Afraid? No. Excited, Hikaru said. Excited to finally duel the legendary dragon. My turn. Draw. He looked at the card and nodded. Activate field spell, Dreamland. The air rippled like heat haze. Statues seemed to shift, then stilled when he blinked. Normal summon, Keeper of Dragon Magic. Level 4/dark/dragon/ATK 1800/def 1300. The monster effect of Keeper of Dragon Magic, when it is normal or special summoned, discard one card from your hand, then add one normal spell card with fusion in its name from your deck to your hand. I discard Elemental Hero Prisma, and add fusion deployment to my hand. Fusion? Interesting. Kaiba Man smiled faintly. It seems you weren't talking nonsense after all. Activate spell card, fusion deployment. Reveal one fusion monster from my extra deck, and special summon one fusion material monster whose name is listed on that card from my hand or deck. The fusion monster I reveal is Master of Chaos. The fusion materials for Master of Chaos are Dark Magician and one Chaos or Black Luster Soldier Ritual Monster, so I special summon from my deck, come forth, Dark Magician. A crimson-robed magician spun from the deck in a trail of light and landed on the field. Dark Magician. Level 7/dark/spellcaster/ATK 2500/def 2100. Kaiba Man's expression hardened. A dimension duelist wielding the Dark Magician? So that's the level you're at. I activate the spell card, Secrets of Dark Magic. This card lets me fusion summon one fusion monster that lists Dark Magician as material, using monsters from my hand or field as fusion material. I fuse Dark Magician in my monster zone and Magician of Chaos in my hand. The Dark Magician lifted his staff, and chaotic energy wrapped around him. A dazzling fusion of order and chaos surged, forming a radiant figure wielding both light and darkness. Fusion summon. Level 8, Master of Chaos. Master of Chaos, level 8/dark/spellcaster/ATK 3000. Kaiba Man crossed his arms, interest flickering in his eyes. So that's your answer. Fascinating. Once per turn, if a monster from my hand or field is sent to the graveyard by a card effect while I control a fusion monster, I draw one card. Hikaru drew, glanced at the card, and smiled. I now revive Elemental Hero Prisma from my graveyard. Monster Reborn, come back. Elemental Hero Prisma level 4/light/warrior/ATK 1700/def 1100. Prisma's effect. Once per turn. You can reveal one fusion monster from your extra deck, then send one of the fusion materials whose name is specifically listed on that card from your deck to the graveyard. This card's name becomes the sent monsters until the end phase. I reveal Frightfur Cruel Whale from my extra deck, then send Edgimp Chain from my deck to the GY. Until the end of this turn, Prisma's name becomes Edgimp Chain. Finally, Keeper of Dragon Magic's second effect. Reveal one fusion monster from your extra deck, and special summon one fusion material monster whose card name is listed on that fusion monster from your graveyard in face-down defense position. Special summon in face-down defense position, Edgimp Chain. The Chain Demon, with its glowing red eyes, was menacingly set on the field. That's amazing, Hikaru. Tiara, beside him, was a little surprised. You managed to special summon so many monsters at once? Having watched countless duels, she could already tell how remarkable this field was. Activate Master of Chaos's effect. Tribute one light and one dark monster you control to the graveyard, then banish all monsters your opponent controls. I tribute Elemental Hero Prisma and the face-down Edgimp Chain, and banish your Blue Eyes White Dragon. Chaos Ruler raised its sword. Edgimp and Prisma turned into two colored streams of light, gold and crimson, that flowed into the blade. A black vortex tore open in the air, sucking at the radiant dragon. Interesting, Kaiba-man suddenly said, his tone cold but amused. No wonder you dared to challenge me. You've got strength, but you're still naive. Trap card, open. Ultimate Creature of Destruction. Tiara blinked. At first, she thought Kaiba-man was shouting slogans like back in the S dimension, but to her shock, that was actually the card's name. Hikaru's pupils contracted sharply. Target one Blue Eyes monster you control. This turn, that face-up monster is unaffected by other card effects, cannot be destroyed by battle, and any monster that battles it is destroyed at the end of the damage step. Witness it, the true power of the ultimate dragon. Repel the darkness, Blue Eyes. As he spoke, Master of Chaos swung his staff, tearing space itself to drag the dragon into the void. But Blue Eyes roared, releasing a blinding surge of white plasma that clashed against the black hole. Light and darkness collided, and both vanished into nothingness. Karu frowned deeply. Amazing, a single monster and a single set card, and it can completely nullify every move, Tiara said in awe beside him. Honestly, she thought Zane and Chaz's earlier duels were already overwhelming, but this mysterious being before them adapted to everything. Even Hikaru couldn't easily overcome a 3000 ATK normal monster backed by a flawless defense. Hikaru stroked his chin. Edgimp Chain's effect activates. When this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, add one Frightfur card from your deck to your hand. I add Frightfur Patchwork to my hand. Tiara's eyes widened. In her opinion, if this card resolved, Hikaru could still turn things around. But Hikaru clearly wasn't aiming for a quick win. I activate Frightfur Patchwork. Add one Edgimp monster and one polymerization from my deck to my hand. This time, a proper fusion spell? Kaiba-man crossed his arms, his smirk widening. So far, though Hikaru had used many cards, every single one clearly served the purpose of fusion. It wasn't random power, it was a philosophy. Hikaru glanced at his hand and the field. The lingering glow of Ultimate Creature of Destruction made things troublesome. I set one card and end my turn. Chapter 456, The Ancient Choice of Fusion. Draw. Kaiba-man drew a card from the top of his deck. He looked at it briefly, then fixed his gaze on Hikaru. Originally, I just wanted to move around casually, but now it seems you're not one of those worthless amateurs. Still, anyone who dares speak of touching Blue Eyes in front of me will not leave unscathed. Prepare to be annihilated. He raised a card sharply. I reveal Blue Eyes White Dragon from my hand to special summon Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon. A surge of lightning ripped through the hall as a streamlined, radiant dragon descended beside its original form. Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, Level 8/Light/Dragon/ATK 3000. This card is always treated as Blue Eyes White Dragon while on the field or in the GY. Next, the effect of the trap card, the ultimate creature of destruction in my GY. When a Blue Eyes White Dragon is normal or special summoned while this card is in the graveyard, I can set it back onto my field. The familiar silver card emerged from the GY slot, flipping face down with a flash. Again! Tiara gasped. That card already stopped one attack, and now it's back. Doesn't that mean you can't destroy it next turn either? Kaiba Man smirked at her panic. What, getting scared already? Hikaru, however, stayed calm. Don't worry, he said evenly. Once it's activated again after being reset this way, it's banished when it leaves the field. Kaiba Man's eyes narrowed. Ho! How do you know that? Then, with a flick of his wrist, Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon's effect. Once per turn, I can target one monster you control and destroy it. Vanish, Master of Chaos. The silver dragon inhaled, then unleashed a concentrated beam of white plasma. The Night Magician crossed his blade before him, but the surge engulfed him completely. Master of Chaos's effect. If this fusion summon card is destroyed by battle or card effect, I can target one spell card in my graveyard and add it to my hand. I retrieve Secrets of Dark Magic. Recovering a spell after destruction, how fitting for a magician. Kaiba Man chuckled, arms folded. But Alternative can't attack this turn, Tiara remarked, recalling the rule from Kaiba's own duels. Oh? Kaiba Man tilted his head toward her voice. You actually know that effect? For a moment, he pondered something quietly, then burst out laughing. Head, doesn't matter. Knowledge alone won't save you. Blue Eyes White Dragon. Erase that pretender. Burst stream of destruction. The ancient dragon charged energy between its jaws, unleashing a torrent of blinding light that obliterated Keeper of Dragon magic and tore through the space behind Hikaru. Turn end. Tiara exhaled. That's it? He ends just like that again? She turned to Hikaru. But he's confident, with that trap back on the field, we can't touch Blue Eyes, right? Hikaru nodded thoughtfully. Under normal circumstances, yeah. Without cards like Lava Golem or Santa Claus, my only outs are battle destruction or effect removal. He straightened, eyes glinting. But now he's got two dragons on the field. If I can force him to guard one, I can take the other. Tiara blinked. So you're planning to split his defense? Exactly. Hikaru's gaze hardened. There's a way. He drew for his turn. My turn, draw. He looked down at his card, Ready Fusion. Perfect. Activate the spell card Ready Fusion. Pay 1000 life points to special summon one level 5 or lower fusion monster from my extra deck. Its effects are negated, and it's destroyed during the end phase. Hikaru LP, 4000-3000. Come forth Brachioratus. The air trembled as a massive prehistoric dinosaur emerged, its scales glistening with water droplets. Tiara tilted her head. You still keep that card in your deck? Hikaru smiled faintly. It's the beginning of everything. I'd never forget it. Brachioratus level 6/water/dinosaur/ATK 2200/def 2000. Ha 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 ha, what kind of weak monster is this? Ridiculous. You think you can challenge Blue Eyes with that? Kaiba Man's laughter echoed through the stone hall. Hikaru's gaze didn't waver. Of course I understand the power of Blue Eyes White Dragon, Mr. Kaiba. But the fusion I pursue doesn't allow me to abandon my partners. Even if a card isn't powerful, it's never useless. Oh? Kaiba Man smirked. Interesting. Then show me, boy. Activate spell card, Metamorphosis. Hikaru drew and smiled faintly. Mr. Kaiba, if you don't act now, it'll be too late. Kaiba's eyes narrowed. The tone was serious, this wasn't bluffing. Metamorphosis, that card transforms one monster into a fusion monster of the same level. Level 6, wait. His face changed. Don't tell me. Tribute the level 6 Brachioratus. Special summon, Ryu Senshi. The twin-necked dinosaur bellowed before dissolving into light. From that light stepped forth an ancient warrior clad in armor shaped like dragon scales, gripping a silver greatsword that shimmered with a draconic aura. Ryu Senshi, level 6/Earth/Warrior/Def 1200. Kaiba man's grin widened. Ryu Senshi, huh? I see, a fusion that negates normal traps? Next, things are simple. Hikaru flicked another card into his dual disc. Activate spell card, fusion substitute. Kaiba man sneered. Another copycat trick. That's right. This card lets me reveal one fusion monster from my extra deck, then special summon one fusion material monster listed on that monster from my graveyard. The monster's effects are negated, and it can't attack this turn. I reveal, Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. Kaiba man's eyes sharpened. Special summon Dark Magician from the graveyard. Then activate spell card, Secrets of Dark Magic. I use Dark Magician on the field and Buster Blade as material. Fusion summon, Dark Paladin. Dark Paladin, level 8/Dark/Spellcaster/ATK 2900/Def 2400. Due to Dreamland, since a monster was sent to the graveyard by a card effect, I draw one card. Kaiba man narrowed his eyes. A proper night fusion, huh? This monster gains 500 ATK for each dragon on the field and in both graveyards. Hikaru raised his dual disc. Your white stone in the graveyard, my Brachioratus, and your 2 blue eyes white dragons, 4 dragons in total. That's an extra 2000 ATK. ATK, 2900-4900. Battle. Attack Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, Dark Paladin. Kaiba man laughed. Swinging your sword at my dragon? Don't make me laugh. You think I'd be afraid to activate my trap? Naive. Activate trap card, Ultimate Creature of Destruction. Then, reuse Senshi's effect. While it's on the field, by paying 1000 life points, I can negate the activation of a normal trap. Hikaru's life points dropped. Ryu Senshi leapt up before vanishing into particles of red light that slashed through Kaiba's trap, shattering it before it could take hold. At that moment, Dark Magician the Dragon Knight swung his blazing sword, cleaving directly through Blue Eye's alternative White Dragon. A thunderous impact tore through the shrine. Kaiba man LP, 4000-2100. Smoke billowed, the stone floor cracked, and for a long moment, the air was silent, until Kaiba man straightened, a wide grin splitting across his face. Interesting, truly interesting. He chuckled darkly. So that's why you dared to challenge me. You really aren't ordinary, are you? Kaiba man's gaze swept across Hikaru's field. At first, I thought you were some clown spewing nonsense, he admitted. Then you used Dark Magician and that fusion spell of yours, and I started to take you seriously. But what truly impressed me, his lips curled into a faint grin, is that even with all those powerful, modern cards, you still trust the old legends like Brachioratus and Ryu Senshi. That kind of loyalty, that's worthy of respect. He raised his next card. But don't think the duel ends here. Your Dark Paladin can discard to negate spells, and Ryu Senshi can cut through traps, but neither of them can stop monster effects. I normal summon Dictator of D. A dark-robed musician stepped forth, clutching a staff shaped like a dragon's head. Dictatory of D, a level 4/Dark/Spellcaster/ATK 1200/Def 1100. This card lets me discard one Blue Eyes White Dragon or any card that lists its name to target a Blue Eyes in my GY, then special summon it. He discarded the Blue Eyes White Dragon from his hand. The aura around Dark Paladin flared as another dragon's soul entered the grave, his attack climbing higher. ATK 4900-5400. Return. Blue Eyes White Dragon. The temple shook as the radiant dragon reformed beside its master. Tiara blinked in disbelief. But doesn't that just make Paladin even stronger? Why not call back Blue Eye's alternative white dragon and destroy him outright? Humph. Run from a duel with the dark magician? Ridiculous. Kaiba Man barked. True strength faces its rival head-on. Now appear once more Blue Eye's white dragon. Twin dragons filled the air with their overlapping roars. Hikaru's eyes narrowed, he could already sense what was coming. And now, Kaiba Man declared, thrusting his arm forward, overlay the two level 8 monsters to construct the XYZ network. What? Tiara gasped. Even Hikaru's breath caught. Light and shadow intertwined, spiraling upward until they coalesced into silver radiance. O noble dragon, Kaiba Man intoned, answer my call. XYZ summon. Rank 8 Indigo Eyes Silver Dragon. Chapter 457. Note, change King of D to Dictator of D. White streams of light surged into the room from every direction. A colossal dragon, far larger than Blue Eye's white dragon and clad in shimmering silver-white armor, descended into the grand hall. Indigo Eyes Silver Dragon Rank 8/Light/Dragon/ATK 4000/Materials, 2 Level 8 monsters. With the dragon's appearance, the air itself seemed to freeze. Even the ethereal tentacles around the chamber faded into nothing. When Indigo Eyes Silver Dragon is XYZ summoned, all face-up cards your opponent controls are negated. Kaiba Man spread his arms wide, his voice echoing through the stone. This is the next step for Blue Eyes, the power of XYZ. Hikaru frowned. So this is his evolution of Blue Eyes? He remembered reading about it in his past life, the moment this card was first announced. It had been overshadowed by the Link 1 Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, but its effects still stood out to him. At the time, people dismissed it compared to Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord or Titanic Galaxy, both reliable negators, he thought. But a full field negation on summon, that's still terrifying. He looked down at his field. The glowing aura of his field spell faded to gray, its effect completely nullified. Dreamland, negated. And since its text doesn't specify until the end of the turn, it's a permanent negation. That realization stung. Dreamland was the backbone of his sustained strategy, now it was nothing but decoration. Across the field, Kaiba Man raised his dual disc. Indigo Eyes Silver Dragon's effect. Detach one XYZ material, then target one normal monster in your GY or banished zone. Special summon that monster, and it gains 1000 ATK. A silver orb rose from Indigo Eyes and burst into light. Awaken, my servant, Blue Eyes White Dragon. The resurrected dragon emerged with a triumphant roar, its power flaring. Blue Eyes White Dragon, level 8/Light/Dragon/ATK 3000-4000. Wind howled through the hall, forcing Hikaru to brace himself against the shockwave. Battle! Blue Eyes White Dragon, attack the magician. Burst stream of destruction. The radiant beam obliterated Dark Paladin, whose negated powers left him defenseless. Hikaru LP, 2900. Kaiba Man's voice rang through the smoke. And now, Indigo Eyes Silver Dragon, destroy Ryusenshi. The massive dragon's tail whipped across the field, smashing the defending warrior to pieces. Kaiba Man smiled coldly. Your field is empty. Dictator of D, finish this, attack directly. The smaller Dragon Knight, its staff tipped with a Blue Eyes head, charged forward. Wait, quick play spell, Scapegoat. 4 multicolored sheep appeared before Hikaru, forming a trembling shield. Kaiba Man's grin faltered for a moment before twisting again. Delaying the inevitable. Dictator of D, strike the one on the left. The blue sheep exploded under the impact, but Hikaru remained standing. Kaiba Man slid his final card face down. Set one card. End turn. Phew. Hikaru exhaled softly, that was too close. He glanced at Scapegoat. 2 turns ago, he'd planned to use it to summon Thousand Eyes Restrict at a crucial moment, forcing Kaiba Man to trigger Ultimate Creature of Destruction. In hindsight, that would have been disastrous. If Indigo Eye's Silver Dragon had negated Thousand Eyes Restricts effect, the direct hit would have been a 4,000-point blow. Another turn, huh? Kaiba Man's smirk returned. Let's see how long you can keep struggling. Hikaru drew. The card slid between his fingers, and he smiled faintly. Activate spell card, Polymerization. I fusion summon Frightfur Sheep by fusing Fluffle Penguin and Edgem Chain from my hand. Frightfur Sheep, level 5/dark/fiend/ATK 2000/def 2000. Both fusion materials activate. Edgem Chain adds Frightfur Patchwork from my deck to my hand. Fluffle Penguin draws 2 cards, then I discard 1 fusion substitute. Kaiba Man arched a brow. So you're rebuilding your resources. Hikaru ignored him. Activate Frightfur Patchwork. I add Polymerization and Edgem Sabers from my deck to my hand. Ha! That makes all 3 of your fusion spells accessible now, doesn't it? Kaiba Man folded his arms. That's right, Hikaru replied calmly. But that's not the point. Next, activate Fusion Substitute's Graveyard effect. I banish it to return Dark Paladin to my extra deck and draw 1 card. He drew swiftly, the card glinting in his fingers. Perfect. Once again, Polymerization. I fuse Edgem Sabers and Fluffle Dolphin. Fusion summon, Frightfur Tiger. The dolphin was sheared apart by scissor-like blades before reforming as a snarling plush tiger stitched with glowing thread. Frightfur Tiger, level 6/dark/fiend/ATK 1900/def 1200. When Frightfur Tiger is fusion summoned, I can destroy cards on the field up to the number of fusion materials used. Kaiba Man's expression flickered. Oomph, so you're not just turtling. Hikaru raised his dual disc. I destroy the ultimate creature of destruction. The green tiger let out a stitched roar, pouncing into the air. The trap card exploded in blue shards. Kaiba Man scowled. Destroying my defenses won't save you. Against Blue Eyes, all resistance is meaningless. Hikaru shook his head. Not meaningless. It's called building toward victory. You, of all people, Yugi's rival, should understand that best. Kaiba Man froze for a heartbeat, eyes narrowing. You actually recognized me? Interesting. Kaiba Man's eyes narrowed, a faint smile on his lips. Hikaru shrugged. You told me yourself. Me? Kaiba Man blinked, then froze. The future you, Hikaru said quietly. Now everything clicked. Kaiba's earlier words about needing his own approval to claim Blue Eyes finally made sense. Of course. In every world, there was only one person who loved Blue Eyes more than anyone else, who was so obsessively protective of it that even touching it required his blessing. Sito Kaiba himself. After all, the same man once destroyed the 4th Blue Eyes White Dragon just to ensure no one else could use it. But even the same Kaiba, at different times, existed in different states. The young Kaiba, before being humbled by Yugi Muto, was a pathological Blue Eyes fanatic. The later Kaiba saw Blue Eyes as an extension of his soul, his pride, his purpose, his proof of existence. And this Kaiba, born from the era when he traversed dimensions and discovered worlds filled with countless Blue Eyes, was the most possessive of all. A Kaiba who refused to share his dragons with anyone. The Kaiba at the height of obsession. I see. Kaiba Man's voice lowered, realization dawning. No wonder you knew my dragon's effects. No wonder you weren't surprised to see them. You've already faced me before, or rather, a future version of myself. In an instant, he understood everything, that this duelist had earned the approval of his future self, that he was here not to steal Blue Eyes, but to prove himself worthy of it. Kaiba Man laughed sharply. But it's useless. Even if the future me acknowledged you, this Kaiba won't. Unless you can truly satisfy me, unless your fusion reaches perfection, you won't take a single step further into this hall of light. His dual disc gleamed. Show me something more. Because right now, you're just barely above a 4th-rate duelist. It doesn't matter, Hikaru replied, his tone calm but firm. All I need is to make you acknowledge me again. He raised his arm. I activate Frightfur Tiger's effect. When this card is fusion summoned, I can target cards on the field up to the number of fusion materials used for it and destroy them. I target Indigo Eye Silver Dragon and your set card. The massive silver dragon roared as Hikaru's plush beast lunged. Kaiba's set card flipped open, revealing True Light. Hikaru exhaled in relief. Tiara blinked from the sidelines. What's that card? That trap can special summon Blue Eyes White Dragon, Hikaru explained quickly. If I destroyed both monsters first and then attacked, he could have revived Blue Eyes and redirected the attack with Dictator of D. That would have been disastrous. He adjusted his hand, then declared, set 2 cards. Turn end. Kaiba Man scoffed. That's all? Oof. He drew. My turn. Draw. Spell card, Pot of Greed. Next, trade in. I discard Blue Eyes Solid Dragon, draw 2. A faint chuckle escaped him. Heh, looks like you've hit your limit. He slammed another card into his dual disc. Activate Monster Reborn. I revive Blue Eyes White Dragon. The ground shook as a familiar roar filled the shrine, the radiant dragon taking form once again. And that's not all. I activate Dictator of D's effect. By discarding Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon from my hand, I can special summon another Blue Eyes White Dragon from my graveyard. Twin dragons appeared beside him, their roars overlapping in a storm of light. Battle! Kaiba Man thrust his hand forward. Dictator of D, destroy the red sheep token. The knight swung its staff like a lance, shattering the creature into fragments of light. Next. Blue Eyes White Dragon, annihilate that tiger that dared to challenge my dragons, burst stream of destruction. A beam of blinding energy obliterated Frightfur Tiger instantly. And that pitiful plush of yours, gone as well. Blue Eyes White Dragon, attack again. The second dragon's claws tore through Frightfur Sheep, smashing it apart. Not so fast. Hikaru countered. Frightfur Sheep's effect activates. When destroyed by battle, it special summons itself from the graveyard, and if it does, it gains 880k. Frightfur Sheep restitched itself together, the seams glowing red. I'll still keep it in defense position, Hikaru added. Kaiba Man folded his arms, unmoved. It doesn't matter. Blue Eyes, crush it. At this point, Hikaru's field had only 2 sheep tokens left, 1 pink, 1 yellow. Ha ha ha, it's not over yet. Kaiba Man's cold smile widened. You claim to be a duelist who pursues fusion. Then witness the ultimate evolution of the strongest dragon, the new form of the ultimate dragon itself. I activate the quick play spell Ready Fusion. A circle of blinding light expanded around him. I pay 1000 life points to special summon 1 level 6 or lower fusion monster from my extra deck, but it cannot attack and its effects are negated. Hikaru's eyes narrowed. He's preparing materials. Kaiba Man raised another card. Now, I activate Polymerization. I fuse the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons on my field. Witness it, the true ultimate evolution of Blue Eyes. Fusion Summon. Level 12, Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. The 3 dragons dissolved into radiant streams of white light, merging into an immense, triple-headed dragon that illuminated the entire hall with sacred brilliance. Each of its heads shimmered with destructive power, its roar shaking the very foundations of the shrine. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, Level 12/Light/Dragon/Fusion/ATK 4500. Tiara gasped. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon? Why not Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon? Has it evolved again? Kaiba Man laughed. So even in your so-called future, you haven't seen this? Then allow me to educate you. As long as I have another Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon in my extra deck, this monster can attack up to 3 times each battle phase. Hikaru clenched his fists. That's the one from the movie, Neo Ultimate Dragon. 2 of the dragon's heads turned toward the pink and yellow sheep tokens. A moment later, blinding light engulfed them both, and the tokens disintegrated instantly. This ends now. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, Direct Attack. Wait. I activate a trap. Kaiba Man frowns slightly. What now? Trap card, Chain Material. During this turn, I can banish fusion materials from my hand, deck, field, or graveyard to perform a fusion summon. The fusion monster I summon this way cannot attack, and it will be destroyed during the end phase. Oh? Chain Material, huh? Kaiba Man's grin returned. A true fusion duelist till the very end, admirable. Hikaru raised another card. And I activate Necro Fusion. What? Kaiba Man's eyes widened. A fusion from a trap card? That's right. By Chain Material's effect, I banish the fusion materials Predaplin Chlamydosundu and DD Scout Plane from my deck. Fusion Summon. Level 7 Predaplin Chimera Flesia. A mass of thorny vines erupted across the floor, blooming into a massive carnivorous flower with fanged petals and a sinister, metallic sheen. Predaplin Chimera Flesia Level 7/dark/plant/fusion/ATK 2500. Kaiba Man raised an eyebrow. A Level 7, 2500 ATK monster? That's your ace? Hikaru's eyes flashed. Every fusion I make is an ace, and this one, Chimera Flesia, is one of my favorites. Kaiba Man chuckled. So that's it, you'll stand your ground with that? Very well. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, attack Predaplin Chimera Flesia. At this moment, Chimera Flesia's effect activates. When it battles a face-up monster, that opponent's monster loses 1000 ATK, and Chimera Flesia gains 1000 ATK until the end of the turn. Tiara pumped her fist. He took the bait. Chimera Flesia's dream fight, against a monster with 4500 ATK. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon ATK 4500 3500. Predaplin Chimera Flesia ATK 2500 3500. The dragon's triple beam of destruction collided with the surging vines of the monstrous flower, light and darkness exploded, obliterating both monsters in a thunderous flash. Tiara exhaled, clutching her chest. They both destroyed each other. Only one monster left, Dictator of D. Before she could finish, Kaiba Man drew his final card. Quick Play Spell Ultimate Fusion. Kaiba Man declared coldly. Activate during either main phase. Return monsters from my hand, field, or graveyard to the deck as fusion material, then fusion summon one fusion monster that lists Blue Eyes White Dragon or Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon as material. A brilliant light spread through the hall. Return the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons from my graveyard to the deck. Behold, my most loyal and ultimate servant. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. The 3-headed dragon that had dispersed moments ago reformed in a vortex of energy, its scales gleaming like forged platinum. Its radiance dimmed slightly compared to its Neo form, yet the sheer pressure of its presence was undiminished. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, Level 12/Light/Dragon/Fusion/ATK 4500. Tiara's brow furrowed. Again. Kaiba Man's gaze sharpened. Your fusions were impressive, but ultimately meaningless. Your field spell lies negated. Your hand is empty. Tell me, how will you defeat the strongest dragon in existence? He lowered his dual disc slightly. Turn end. At that moment, Hikaru said quietly, the effect of my banished DD Scout Plane activates. When this card is banished, during the end phase, special summon it in attack position. A small mechanical creature materialized from a rift. DD Scout Plane, Level 2/Dark/Machine/ATK 800. Hikaru exhaled, his hands trembled slightly. Kaiba Man sneered. What's wrong? Are you shaking from fear, fear of me, fear of failure, fear of Blue Eyes itself? Hikaru's grip tightened on his cards. Sweat traced his cheek, but his eyes never left Kaiba Man. No, Mr. Kaiba, he said slowly. You're trembling too. Kaiba Man's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. You claim you'll defeat this dragon under these conditions? That's right, Hikaru replied. As long as I draw the next card I'm thinking of, I can. Kaiba-man crossed his arms. Then draw it. Let's see if your words have power. Hikaru drew. A faint purple shimmer glowed from the card's surface. It's here, he whispered. The effect of Predaplant Chimeraplegia, which was destroyed last turn, now activates. If this card is sent to the graveyard, during your next standby phase, you can add one spell card with fusion in its name from your deck to your hand. Kaiba-man chuckled. So it retrieves any fusion spell, HM? Impressive. What will you choose? Tiara leaned in eagerly. Shaddol fusion? Future fusion? Those would be strongest right now. Hikaru shook his head. Power alone doesn't guarantee victory. Only one card can lead me there, any other choice would bring only risk. The card I add, he declared, is Fusion Recovery. Tiara blinked. Fusion Recovery? That can't help here. No, Hikaru interrupted, it's exactly right. A soft blue glow enveloped his dual disc. I activate Fusion Recovery. Target one polymerization, or fusion spell. In my graveyard and one monster that was used as its fusion material, add them both to my hand. A vortex opened, he retrieved a gleaming fusion spell and a familiar staff-wielding figure card. Polymerization, and Dark Magician. Tiara gasped. You're bringing back him? Hikaru nodded. Understanding dawned on Tiara's face. Kaiba-man's expression turned wary. So that's your plan. Hikaru raised his dual disc high. Send Dark Magician and Buster Blader from my hand to the graveyard, fusion summon. The Master of Dark Sorcery and the Dragon-slaying Swordsman unite as one. Fusion summon. Dark Paladin. From the swirling darkness emerged the armored magician knight, his greatsword gleaming with a dragon's reflected light. He landed before Hikaru, cloak billowing in the residual energy of creation. Dark Paladin, level 8/dark/spellcaster/fusion/ATK 2900/def 2400. To replace your hand and special summon all those dragons, you filled your graveyard with them, Mr. Kaiba, Hikaru said, eyes glinting. Let's count: Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon on the field, Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon in your graveyard, the White Stone of Legend, Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, White Spirit Dragon, Blue Eyes Solid Dragon, another alternative White Dragon, and my Keeper of the Dragon Magic. That's 8 dragon monsters in total. He raised his arm, voice resounding through the hall. Which means, Dark Paladin's ATK increases by 4,000. Dark Paladin ATK 2900 6900. The Paladin's sword erupted with searing crimson energy, a storm of magical pressure crackling through the ruins. Battle! Hikaru roared. Dark Paladin, attack Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Super Magic Ripple Slash. Kaiba-man's eyes flashed. Wait, Dictator of DS effect. When a Blue Eyes monster I control is targeted for an attack, I can change the attack target to another monster I control. Fine then, Hikaru replied coldly. Then I'll strike down your commander first. Dark Paladin's sword twisted mid-swing, redirecting toward Dictator of D. The vortex of black and emerald energy carved through the air, shattering Kaiba's control field. Dictator of D raised his staff, roaring defiantly, but the moment the blade struck, a ripple of magic detonated across the field, engulfing him in a burst of light. Dictator of D destroyed. Kaiba-man's life points plummeted. LP 2100. The dual disc on Kaiba's arm powered down. The holographic dragons that filled the hall, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon included, stood still for a moment before fading into shimmering motes of light. Kaiba-man folded his arms, looking up at the dissolving blue eyes with a faint, satisfied smile. So that's how it is. A duel worthy of Blue Eyes itself. His form began to dissolve into light, scattering into the air like falling stars. Gasps echoed all around. Wow! So amazing! That human actually defeated the invincible Kaiba-man. Silence, another voice boomed, deeper and older. He is only the second human in over 10 years to reach this point. Show respect. As the last fragments of Kaiba Man's light disappeared, dozens of spirits emerged from the shadows, some human, some dragon-shaped, glowing faintly in the ancient hall. Chapter 458, Generosity. Congratulations, you are the second person in all these years to pass the trial. Inside the hall, a young woman in a pale blue shrine maiden's outfit held a silver scepter, bowing gracefully before Hikaru. Tiara leaned close, whispering that she's not a spirit. She's human. Hikaru blinked. A human? The shrine maiden straightened, smiled faintly, and gestured for him to follow. As she walked, the strange aura that had filled the spirit hall began to fade. The light that once caged them dissolved, allowing Tiara to finally see beyond the dual field. Miss Miko, Hikaru began, what exactly was that earlier? That trial with Kaiba Man. The maiden's steps echoed gently across the marble floor. That was the trial of true light, she said. All around them, spirit attendants and spectral dragons peeked out from behind pillars, some cautious, others curious. Hikaru raised a hand in greeting, and a few bowed in return. Our dimension, she continued, is a realm dedicated to the legendary dragon, Blue Eyes White Dragon. The Spirit Hall chooses worthy souls from countless worlds to inherit the power of light. I was chosen among them. Her tone softened. 10 years ago, a certain man entered this dimension by his own will. He wasn't summoned here, he broke through on his own. He wielded blue eyes as if born to it, no, as if blue eyes itself existed for him. He mastered Azure Eye's silver dragon almost instantly and subdued every dragon spirit that resisted him. His presence was absolute. She stopped and smiled faintly at the memory. At that time, I was only a child. I watched him duel, radiant as a god of dragons. I never imagined I would one day witness that same man, defeated. So it really was Mr. Kaiba, Seto Kaiba from 10 years ago? Hikaru asked quietly. That's right. The Miko nodded. Ahead, several spirits pushed open a massive gate. Beyond it stood a towering stone monolith reaching toward the sky, its surface carved with the divine image of a dragon spreading its wings. Hikaru's eyes widened. That's the Blue Eyes White Dragon tablet. The Miko turned toward it reverently. Before the tablet of true light, every duelist must undergo a trial to prove their worth. Hikaru nodded slowly. In his travels through dimensions, he'd learned that each realm had its own laws, some demanded duels, others oaths, and some, like the Hall of Light, required tests of the soul. Here, she continued, the light itself summons duelists who can resonate with its purity. But any being, human or spirit, who cannot, must face the trial. Her expression darkened slightly. Originally, the trial was overseen by our own duelists. But 10 years ago, that man, Seto Kaiba, defeated all of them and claimed the final authority. The final authority? Hikaru echoed. Yes. The right to add entries to the dimension's laws. She pointed to a smaller stone slab beside the main tablet, its surface glowing with faint inscriptions. At first, he carved the rule, only I may wield blue eyes. But after we reminded him that this dimension was home to countless dragon spirits, he revised it to only those acknowledged by me may possess blue eyes. Hikaru's eyes widened slightly. I see. So under your world's law, whenever someone enters this dimension, they're automatically forced to face the Kaiba man from 10 years ago. That's right. As she spoke, several armored attendants stepped forward, pushing ornate boxes carved with draconic motifs. You are a traveler between dimensions, the shrine maiden said softly. In other realms, you may have found companions through your own resonance. But in this realm, you must understand, the cards will not always appear as you imagine. She gestured gracefully, placing the boxes before the towering tablet of true light. So that means... Hikaru pointed at the boxes. We're waiting for the tablet to materialize the cards? That's correct, she replied. Close your eyes, focus your thoughts and spirit, and project them into this box. The true light will answer, granting you the cards that match your heart's result. Hikaru nodded and did as told. He rested his palm against the box. Instantly, a soft purple glow shimmered around him. The shrine maiden's eyes widened slightly at the sight. Tiara, watching from behind, leaned forward, clearly bored but curious to see what would happen next. Thanks to long months of training and Tiara's spiritual tuning, Hikaru's adaptability had already reached 8 stars, a level near the peak attainable by ordinary humans. Soon, he felt his consciousness drift into a pure white void. A gentle voice, warm and distant, seemed to whisper questions to him. He answered twice, expressing his resolve. Then, I understand. But I promised him I wouldn't give Blue Eyes White Dragon to anyone else. The voice echoed faintly as the vision shattered, and Hikaru opened his eyes. The entire tablet before him was glowing now. The engraved Blue Eyes White Dragon began to radiate a soft white light. Beams cascaded down like sunlight through an old window, scattering across the chamber. The light pooled into the box before him. Slowly, cards began to materialize within. It seems the light has given its answer. The shrine maiden solemnly lifted the box, held it high over her head, then bowed deeply, offering the cards with reverence. So many? Tiara gasped. She had followed Hikaru through many dimensions. Other than the special hall with Frightfur and the joint experiment with magical scientist, this was the first time she'd seen the spirits themselves provide so many cards at once. Hikaru bowed in return, then gently took the stack. The shrine maiden straightened with quiet grace. He looked down, and blinked. There wasn't a single copy of Blue Eyes White Dragon. Of course, no Blue Eyes White Dragon here meant no normal monster version. Instead, there were 3 Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, which count as Blue Eyes White Dragon while on the field or in the graveyard. Alongside them were Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon and Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon. In addition, the box contained 3 Ultimate Fusion, 3 Burst Stream of Destruction, and 1 True Light. Even though he rarely used spells and couldn't set traps, this gift was far from stingy. It was, after all, the dimension of Blue Eyes White Dragon, a realm of myth, even among spirits. Still, without an actual Blue Eyes White Dragon, how was he supposed to reveal one to special summon an alternative White Dragon from his hand? And Future Fusion couldn't even send the 3 alternatives from the deck to the GY to summon Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon or Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, since alternative only counts as Blue Eyes on the field or in the GY. He exhaled softly. Even so, he murmured, this is far more than I expected. Originally, he had only hoped for 1 Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, to use for alchemical analysis and dimensional fusion testing. He tapped his chin, thinking aloud. Looks like I'll need to find myself a 5-headed dragon next. Chapter 459, Guaranteed First-Hand Information. At present, Hikaru had no legitimate way to summon Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon. If he drew one, it could only serve as discard fodder. The good news was that his current deck contains several reliable ways to discard cards, and since Alternative was a light attribute dragon, it could still be used as fusion material for other plays. If nothing else, using it in a fusion, say, to bring out El Shad Doll Construct, wouldn't be a total waste. Still, now that he finally possessed it, Hikaru wanted to experiment with it properly someday. When he first arrived in this world, his reliance on fusion had come from necessity, a desperate measure. Part of it was simply that he couldn't stand the fusion army fanatics who insisted fusion was outdated. But as time passed and his duels multiplied, he noticed something: his connection with his dual spirit deepened fastest when he truly believed in fusion. In the end, he stopped resisting and accepted it, fully committing himself to the path of fusion. That conviction was why he dared to request a Blue Eyes White Dragon right under the watchful eyes of Kaibacorp's spiritual monitors. And now, the results were astonishing. Originally, he'd only wanted a single Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon, something to study through alchemical fusion, starting from its predecessor, Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. Instead, the stone tablet had given him an entire set of 3 Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon and 1 Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon. There was no way he wouldn't test them. Besides, Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon was a monster worth admiration. Unaffected by targeting and immune to destruction by card effects, 2 layers of protection, plus a massive 4,500 ATK. Few monsters could ever defeat it in battle. Since alternative couldn't be directly summoned yet, Hikaru could only find a workaround, sending them to the graveyard, then fusing from there. The simplest path, for now, would be use future fusion to send 3 alternatives and 2 other dragons to the GY to summon 5-headed dragon, then, from there, use ultimate fusion or dragon's mirror to bring out Blue Eye's alternative ultimate dragon directly. It was crude, but effective. More importantly, 5-headed dragon wasn't even that expensive in this world. Despite its fearsome 5080k, higher than Blue Eye's ultimate dragon, and its fame across generations, the card was surprisingly common. Even Jaden Yuki, Cyrus Truesdale, and Zane Truesdale all owned copies. It was a recognizable card, but not one many duelists actually used. In fact, Hikaru recalled that in several old legends of Yugi Muto, every duelist who played 5-headed dragon had gone on to lose the duel anyway. Because of that superstition, the market was flooded with spare copies. With his current resources, he could easily buy one the moment he left the temple. He laughed quietly to himself. Funny, he'd never even considered purchasing one before, even though its fusion requirement of 5 dragon monsters could have saved him several deck slots. He'd simply ignored it because he'd never cared about the card. Leaving already? He turned. The Shrine Maiden was standing beside the tablet, her expression serene. Yes, Hikaru said, tucking his new cards away. Won't you leave a message? She asked, gesturing to the tablet's base. Carved into the stone beside it was Seto Kaiba's inscription. You could also inherit his position, she added. Become the next challenger who guards the trial. The trial. Hikaru paused, then shook his head. There's no need for that. He had no reason to stand in Kaiba's place. Because Hikaru had already obtained the cards he wanted, and because what he received far exceeded anything he expected, he felt no desire to take more. If he had reached this dimension purely through his own power, perhaps he could have altered its laws. But since Seto Kaiba himself had been the one to send him here, forcing a change would have been disrespectful. In the future, if another duelist managed to defeat Kaiba Man from 10 years ago, they could rewrite the rules themselves. Still, after thinking for a while, Hikaru accepted the small chisel that one of the attendants offered him, and carefully carved a short inscription onto a smaller stone tablet beside the massive one. The Shrine Maiden leaned in and read aloud, smiling faintly. Do you wish for the blessing of Blue Eyes? The lines he had carved expressed his wish to continue exploring fusion smoothly and safely in the future. If that is your desire, the Shrine Maiden said gently, then I believe your path will unfold without obstruction. Is that so? Hikaru took one of the Blue Eyes' alternative white dragons from his case and studied it under the temple light. There was nothing outwardly special about it, no glow, no change in its foil sheen. Tiara, standing beside him, shrugged with a teasing grin. In simple terms, it just means your alchemy experiments won't explode as violently anymore. I see, Hikaru said with a quiet laugh. This tablet, he thought, was extraordinarily generous. In fact, he suspected that if Kaiba, or rather, the existence of Kaiba's past and present selves, hadn't been tied to this dimension, the first duelist strong-willed enough to reach it might have been granted an entire Blue Eyes deck outright. That kind of generosity rivaled, maybe even surpassed, that of Mr. Koyo Hibiki. He packed his cards carefully, turned toward the temple doors, and stepped out. Beyond the Hall of Light, the realm was tranquil. Spirits roamed freely through the courtyards. Kaiba Man didn't restrain them, nor did he even appear. Dragons played together in peace, a sight completely unlike the stricter dimensions Hikaru had seen. Even the mountain realm had guards standing in rigid silence. Kaiba Man from 10 years ago wasn't just a gatekeeper here, he was also the guardian of this world. As long as the light endured, he would remain, silently watching over it. Ha! Hikaru rubbed the back of his neck, a faint smile tugging at his lips. President Kaiba really is the kind of man whose actions never match his words. He walked down the path leading out of the shrine. The world around him dimmed gradually, light fading to gray, then to deep shadow. When he looked up again, an elevator stood before him, its doors gleaming with faint blue sigils. He pressed the upward arrow. After a soft chime and a long pause, the air above him split open into a dimensional tunnel. Moments later, a capsule descended from the rift. The return trip was smooth, free of interference or delay. When the capsule doors opened, uniformed Kaiba Corp staff were already waiting. They guided him through the exit halls quietly and efficiently, without asking a single question. No one asked whether Hikaru had succeeded. No one asked if he had obtained the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Those were not questions they were allowed to ask. Nor were they things they needed to know. Kaiba himself didn't particularly care about the outcome. If Hikaru truly succeeded, he would eventually see the results for himself. After thanking the Kaiba Corp staff, Hikaru stepped outside, pulled out his phone, and opened his contact list. He called Funlo Company, intending to request help in procuring a copy of Five-Headed Dragon. To his surprise, the company representative immediately replied, "Oh, we already have one in stock. We can send it to you directly." Hikaru blinked, then smiled faintly. That was convenient. He had just pocketed his phone when Hikaru. Hikaru turned toward the voice. Leaning against a nearby wall, head lowered, was Chaz. "Chaz? You're done over there already?" Chaz didn't answer immediately. He simply flicked his wrist, tossing something toward Hikaru. Instinctively, Hikaru caught it. It was a small, sleek, high-tech device, metallic silver, with a compact drive port shaped like a data connector on top. "What's this?" Hikaru asked, examining it. "You're heading to the S dimension, right?" Chaz said with his usual confident smirk. "That's an attachment module for the new dual-disk prototypes. Once installed, you'll be able to link your dual-disk to a dual runner or any other dimensional vehicle system." He crossed his arms, grinning. "Even a genius like you can't learn to ride a dual runner in 1 or 2 days, right? And you definitely don't have time to get a proper license. With this, you can move freely and still duel without worrying about logistics." Hikaru raised an eyebrow. "Chaz, you didn't come all this way just to hand me this, did you?" "Humph." Chaz coughed lightly, avoiding his gaze. "Of course I'm not helping for free." He tapped his chest and said, "Even Kaiba Corp doesn't have a full grasp of the S dimension yet. I don't know how you got clearance to go, but it's a golden opportunity. That module also records dual data. When you come back, hand me the footage. Next semester, I'll use it to launch my commercial empire. Got it?" He added more quietly, "In an emergency, that device can also transmit limited data back to this world." Hikaru couldn't help laughing. "Ha, alright. Thanks." He lifted his left hand, extending his index and middle fingers in a playful salute. "Don't worry. You'll get the data first, straight from the source." Chapter 460, Final Attempt. The call of the Red Dragon was drawing closer. But before answering it, Hikaru still had a few things to take care of. The first was to check his deck. After all, he had just dueled Kaiba Man, and that kind of encounter often left unseen traces. Whether it was Sito Kaiba from 10 years ago or the present one, he remained one of the absolute pinnacles of the Yu-Gi-Oh! World. Even defeating that Kaiba, his younger self, was a remarkable feat. Sure enough, as Hikaru expected, his Claw of Hermos had advanced dramatically, far more than when he defeated Weevil Underwood or Rex Raptor. When he examined it closely, the card was almost completely materialized, missing only the final shimmer of completion. And beyond that. Ha! Hikaru blinked, noticing a new monster card that hadn't been there before. The White Stone of Legend. He rubbed his chin, intrigued. According to his original plan, he was going to study Blue Eye's alternative White Dragon, using alchemy to reproduce other Blue Eyes-related cards. But with the White Stone of Legend suddenly appearing, the possibilities opened wide. Just as the glow-up bulb can evolve step by step, if this White Stone could in time give birth to a White Dragon, then, even if Sito Kaiba himself or that divine tablet appeared, it would be hard for anyone to say Hikaru's path was wrong. After returning to the academy, Hikaru first visited the Great Universe Workshop, then stopped by the Magical Guidance Academy to return the spell research tomes he had borrowed. He next detoured to Witchcraft Alley, but its leader was away and told him to come again another day. Hikaru didn't dwell on it. He turned his steps toward Endymion, the magical city. To his surprise, he had expected a challenge or test before being granted an audience, but after only a brief investigation, the locals welcomed him openly, granting him permission to meet the magical king Endymion directly. From them, Hikaru learned something unexpected. An Endymion fugitive had escaped their dimension years ago and fled to the human world. Though Hikaru hadn't been the one to capture that runaway, the incident tied back to Duel Academy, during the Seven Stars crisis. Back then, Chaz had been chasing the Black Scorpion thief group, when he was ambushed by an Endymion spirit and lost his key. Later, Jaden recovered it. That spirit, it turned out, had been the fugitive. Hikaru couldn't help being surprised. He'd always assumed that Endymion sorcerer was deliberately summoned by Professor Banner. After all, looking back, Banner and Alistair the Invoker had a good rapport. Borrowing help from Endymion would have made perfect sense. He hadn't expected the truth to be a jailbreak. Still, because of that past incident, Endymion held a favorable view of the Seven Stars duelists. When Hikaru arrived in their city, they already knew his purpose, to find Alistair. So they didn't hinder him. In fact, they even entrusted Hikaru with several gifts to deliver to Chaz and Jaden. Of course, Hikaru received his own share as well: rings, pendants, magical reagents, rare materials in perfect condition. Perhaps they were specialties of the spirit world. Chaz would probably appreciate them more than he'd ever admit. After finishing his errands, Hikaru set off once again, this time, for the DT dimension. Originally, Hikaru had planned to visit the Magic Tribe village to ask magical scientists if there had been any new discoveries. But after some thought, he realized it had only been a little over a month since their last meeting, hardly enough time for fresh breakthroughs. So instead, he set his sights on the dual terminal, DT, dimension, bringing Tiara along. Just like before, when they arrived in the DT dimension, the two of them picked a random direction and set off, taking things casually, befriending whoever they happened to meet along the way. But unlike their last visit, Tiara's behavior changed partway through. At first, she was her usual enthusiastic self, but later her expression grew tense, brows furrowed as if she had sensed some grave disturbance. Hikaru asked what was wrong, but uncharacteristically, Tiara didn't answer. She only frowned, clearly troubled. Still, their luck held. Soon after, Tiara encountered a patrol unit belonging to the Gen X tribe. Through a short duel, she earned their trust and was given directions to their camp. They say the first time is difficult, but the second comes easy. Having already dealt with Shad Doll and alien insect spirits, Tiara now had a good grasp of how the DT world's tribes functioned, and how to approach them. Besides, in her eyes, these Gen X machines weren't enemies to erase, but creations of her own design, environmental regulators and adaptive constructs she once helped engineer. So her demeanor was far gentler than when facing the Shad Doll. At the Gen X camp, she applied her knowledge of machinery and the Gen X archetype to tune their internal systems, even assisting one spirit on the verge of synchro-evolution. In return, the Gen X welcomed her warmly. She was, after all, the most technically skilled among them. Every prototype of the next-gen constructs had once been handmade by her. Humph, see? Isn't this way faster than you trying to earn everyone's approval one by one? Tiara said smugly, holding an armful of spare parts and data cards before they left. Hikaru could only laugh. So running background programs counts as socializing now? Whether it was luck or the dragon's unseen guidance, their journey between dimensions had gone surprisingly smoothly this time. But for Hikaru, these things no longer mattered. Right now, there was only one thing occupying his mind. Ding, ding. Assault Corps, Captain, stabilize it, shouted the alchemist, giving orders to the two spirits. The two didn't answer, straining against thick ether ropes that pulled taut in opposite directions. In the core chamber of the Great Universe Workshop, a massive furnace powered by the Philosopher's Stone blazed with unearthly light, its glow warped with crimson, gold, and sapphire hues, radiating a chaotic, almost malevolent aura. 3 colored energy pillars, red, yellow, and blue, pierced through the ceiling, lancing into the dark expanse of the workshop's internal cosmos. Each pillar was bound by dozens of reinforced card threads, trembling under the tension. Tiara hovered in midair, spreading her hands. Violet flames swept outward like wings, scorching the surrounding air until even the walls of the workshop shimmered under their heat. Hikaru carefully slid a card into the heart of the fusion furnace. Around the furnace, 6 cards floated in a perfect circle, each radiating a different elemental aura. Earth attribute invoked Makaba. Water attribute invoked Cositus. Fire attribute El Shaddal Grista. Wind attribute El Shaddal Windigo. Light attribute El Shaddal Construct. Dark attribute El Shaddal Winda. 6 lights, brown, blue, crimson, emerald, white, and violet, rose into the air, converging into a single whirl of prismatic brilliance. Together, they represented the completion of Hikaru's alchemic cycle. The furnace roared. The blue energy pillar overhead began to darken, black smoke coiling like serpents. The great universe workshop shook under the strain. Tiara's brows drew tight. She snapped her fingers, summoning several gray-white machine fiends, each wreathed in ghost blue flames. They spread out around her, reinforcing the energy field and searing against the unstable light pillar. Boom! A violent explosion tore through the chamber. Every spirit except Tiara was blown back by the shockwave. Blue flames engulfed the furnace, spearing upward until it seemed they might burn through the whole sky. Hikaru stood motionless. The azure blaze danced wildly in his eyes, then, slowly, it began to condense. The fire drew together, spiraling into a single point until it solidified once more, into a card. He reached out and caught it as it fell. Chaos Phantasm, Armityle the Chaos Phantom. Purification. Sublimation. And beside it, Hikaru's hand trembled as another familiar card materialized from the blue light. His eyes widened, and for the first time in ages, he couldn't suppress his grin. It's back, finally, it's back. The dark, hex-sealed fusion. Hikaru clenched his fist, excitement surging through him as the 2 cards gleamed together in his grasp. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. The series What If Transmigrated into One Piece and became a Marine will be going on hold soon, since we're nearly at the end of the story. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if a venerated soul reincarnated in Danmachi world? What if transmigrated and taking over Ichigo's body? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.